Good evening, everyone. Welcome into overtime, and this is an exciting new week, week 2 for 4A in the playoffs. Of course, 3A, 2A, 1A. They're moving on down the line. Skis are playing for the championship this weekend. We are rocking and rolling with high school football. Boy, time flies when you're having fun. So we got a lot to get into, starting with our game to watch last week. But let me introduce my guru, high school guru, Jim Baxter, scvarsity.com, who likes to say and remind me, you got it right again.
Got it right again. It was tough, though. I mean, there was good games, and it could have gone either way with any of those games. But some upsets last week, and I think we had them nailed. I didn't have to change the top 5 that much this week. I think we that much. I dropped Swansea, but last week I told you, even though Swansea was at number 5 in my top 5, I knew they were going to be dropping. I said they're probably going to drop because I really felt like they were going to lose to Marlboro County.
I try to pull for the local Midlands team.
It's not that I'm not pulling for them. I'm just picking the game.
You've been realistic sometimes. So I did take Swansea. The Tigers just got into the Pastors picks, and then, of course, they probably going to drop right out of it. We'll get to that later on in the program. But let's start for our game to watch last week, a rematch, Lexington White Knoll. And, of course, it was a high-scoring game, Jim, the first time around. But this time, Lexington back-to-back wins over White Knoll. White Knoll went on a long streak during the course of the season, but losing their final 2 games to Lexington. Probably just disappointing for this program.
Yeah, disappointing, and they started the season off 0-2. They finished 0-2 in their last 2 games, and both of those coming at the hands of their rival, Lexington High School. And Slade Carroll for Lexington had a big-time game. This was a big win for Lexington, first round of the playoffs. Got a big game this week, but this Lexington team is, this is the time of the year you want to get better. This is the time you want to peak. And I wouldn't say that they're peaking right now, but they're certainly playing better than they have in the previous 3 or 4 weeks.
Well, you got to be, and if you coach Step really like where your team is right now, as you said, you want to get better during the playoffs. This team struggled some during the season. Of course, now they're starting to play well. Of course, beating White Knoll was no easy task. 2 weeks in a row. When you got film, you can go back and game plan. So congratulations to Coach Step and the Wildcats of Lexington as they move on in the playoffs. Let's go to some more games. Marlboro 19 and Swansea 8. The Tigers are eliminated from the playoffs. Of course, a team that just got into the Pastors picks. And, of course, a letdown, Jim. 19-18, they lose to Marlboro County.
This Marlboro County team 7-5, but they're not your typical 7-5 team. If you look at their losses, they played Richmond County, Scotland County, 2 of the best teams in North Carolina. They also played Dillon. So 3 of those 5 losses were to some pretty good football teams. This is a team that's peaking at the right time. They are banged up. That scared me about this pick because they've had a lot of kids injured. But London Johnson, the quarterback there, is one of the top quarterbacks in the state, committed to Charleston Southern, and he's going to be a great player on Saturdays as well.
A good win for them. They will move on in the playoffs. Of course, Swansea had a really nice season and won a lot of games. Kind of like White Knoll. They went on a stretch run there, won some games, and then got in the playoffs. Things just didn't work out too well for the Tigers of Swansea. But a good season nonetheless. Of course, you got a lot to build on going forward on next year. Back to the highlights we go. One of my favorite teams, I should say, Fairfield Central, 34 strong, Thurman 7. The Griffins win their 11th game in a row. Speaking of streaks, I am very confident in this football team, and I will continue, Jim Baxter, to speak very highly of them.
Oh, this has been, listen, I've been riding this horse. They've been number 3 in my top 5 for several weeks. I like this team. I think they're playing better football probably than anybody, not just in Class 2A, maybe anybody in the state. And I think they are headed on a collision course for Dillon in the state championship again, which will be the 3rd consecutive meeting of those 2 teams if it happens.
Well, it reminds me of those years where Pageland Central and Dillon used to be the kings of 2A football. And they had about 4 years in a row they went at it. Of course, Dillon won 3 out of the 4, I believe. Central got one of those, but Dillon, boy, what a powerhouse football program down there. But Fairfield Central, much love from me because I had the UPS guy. I was at an establishment the other day. The UPS guy rolled some boxes in the establishment. And he said, "Corey, can we win it all?" And I said, "Yes, you can win it all, and I believe that you're going to win it all." So there you go, Fairfield Central. Back to the highlights we go. Let's keep rocking and rolling there. Vincenzo, boy, this is a team I like as well. Keenan, 60, and Chesley, 39. The Raiders, they advanced to the semis, and of course, this is another team that's looking extremely, Jim, extremely well.
We talked about them a couple of weeks ago
and
said that they could be a team that could go all the way in that bracket. They beat Central, good win against Central. They come up against a very good Chesney team. They wind up putting 60 points on the board. And now they're 1 win away from playing for a championship. And this is a very good Keenan football team.
I remember the coach told us, hey, you know what, I'm kind of mimicking the program over at Fairfield Central. I look at that program. I'm kind of trying to build my team similar to what they're doing at Fairfield Central. 60 points in the playoffs over Chesney to 39. That's an excellent win. Why'd you have to bring up the Central win?
Well, I just wanted to
I
point.
know you just want to
point it
remind
out.
me. Let's get one more package of highlights there before we end this first segment, because we like to do this. This probably one that shocked the state of South Carolina. River Bluff, give me some dogs. Well, he took some dogs down to the low country, defeating one of the state's top programs, Goose Creek, 22-21. Big shocker there, Jim.
It was a big shocker. I don't think anyone outside of River Bluff expected this. Now, Goose Creek struggling this year, not your typical Goose Creek team, but this was a huge win for River Bluff. And this is a team, Corey, they're well coached. I mean,
Right.
they've got one of the best coaching staffs in the state. They don't make mistakes. They don't turn the ball over. And when you do that, you're going to win some football games. I think these type of teams, they remind me a lot of kind of like Christ Church in the 1A level. They're not loaded with prospects on their roster, but they do things the right way. They
Right.
don't make mistakes, and so they win football games.
Yeah, great win there for River Bluff, going on the road. Team that's welcome to 4A football. I mean, this team just been in 4A football a year. So let's give them a year, and they go down and defeat Goose Creek, which has been one of the top programs in the state of South Carolina. Chuck Reed in that game, as you said, does a very nice job down in the low country. When we come back, it's time to talk about this week's game to watch. You don't want to miss it. That's coming up next after the break. All right, welcome back to Overtime. It is now time to feature our game to watch this week. Of course, Fairfield Central and Newberry, a game that they played early on in the year where Fairfield Central, Jim Baxter dominated Newberry, winning that ball game 33-8 back in October on the 10th. And it's a game that's at Fairfield Central. They're going to have the home crowd behind them. They're going to be hyped up, ready to rock and roll, and a team that's playing with a tremendous amount of confidence. I like what Coach Davis is doing up there, and I think this team, Jim, in Fairfield, is going to be ready to roll.
I think they are too. I mean, they're obviously the favorite going into this game, and I think that they did beat Newberry. I don't think that we'll have quite the margin of victory this time, but I still think Fairfield Central wins this football game. Newberry's coached by Phil Strickland. He's going to have those kids ready. He's coached the big games, of course, at Batesburg, Leesville, Gaffney, and now at Newberry. And so he's going to have his kids prepared. But I think Fairfield Central is going to be too strong for him.
Yeah, I just like the confidence. I think, when you talk about building a football team, doing it the right way, that's Fairfield Central, a team that's been very dominant in 2A football. Again, they can run it. They can play defense. They can score on big plays through the air, on the ground. It's a team that can do it in many different facets of the football game. That's why I'm going to take Fairfield Central. Matter of fact, to roll over Newberry. I don't think this game is going to be close. I like Coach Phil Strickland. I think he's a great coach, as you alluded to. Good programs at Gaffney and at Batesburg, now at Newberry. But I think Fairfield win this game. But here's what Coach said about this upcoming game, Coach Strickland.
Well, obviously Fairfield's a very talented football team, and they beat us pretty good the first time. We know we have our work cut out for us. They run and pass very well. They're very balanced on offense, and they're very aggressive on defense. Well, obviously not to turn the ball over. Last time we played them, we turned the ball over too many times, and we played behind the sticks all night. We started off several times, 1st and 15, and can't do that. And not to win and beat a quality football team like Fairfield Central.
He's a coach that's been around. As you said, he's been in big games. He's coached at really successful programs. A guy that's going to have his team prepared. We know that Newberry will be prepared to play in this football game, but the fact that it's at Fairfield Central, the fact that this team is really, really good, Jim, on offense and defense, really, really confident. I'm going to say I don't see this game even being close. I think it's a 2-touchdown plus victory for the Griffins.
I think Fairfield wins it, and it could be a 14-point margin. I don't think it'll be much more than that. I think it's going to be a lot closer than the last game.
Yep, I do too. So there you go. That's our game to watch of the week, 7:30 at Fairfield Central. Should be a good one. So if you're looking for a game to go, your team is not participating in the playoffs, because there are a lot of them around here in the Midlands. They got it, like T.O. said, they got their popcorn ready watching the game. So go out and check out Fairfield Central and Newberry. When we come back, we'll talk about the players of the week. That's coming up as the overtime rolls on. And we're back. Welcome back to Overtime. Corey Miller, Jim Baxter, and it's now time to talk about, Jim, our players of the week. Of course, offensively, defensively, a lot of guys, as we say, each and every week that we can choose from. No doubt about it. A lot of good numbers out there, but we do the best we can, kind of, coming up to these two guys. Well, this guy, Tate Fan, offensively for Lexington High School. When you talk about a rematch, Dutch Fork. When you talk about a team that has done great things, Dutch Fork. This guy's been really good. As we talk about a lot about Matt Colburn and what he's done, but this guy might be the MVP.
Tate's done a good job this year, and I think we talked a little bit about him, third, fourth game of the year, about developing into a player that could take over a game. He's a guy that you can put the ball in his hands, and he can do some good things. You see here, 4 touchdowns against Malden. Now, Malden limped into this game, not to take anything away from what Tate did, but they were hurting already, and they come up against a team like Dutch Fork, and Tate Fant leading them at quarterback, and he had a great game, 253 yards passing.
4 touchdowns, 11 to 16, very accurate passer. But the thing that they do have when you stack the box, and I think this is why Tate Fan is successful, because when you stack the box against Dutch Fork, when you say I'm going to commit 8, maybe even 9 in the box, try to stop Matt Colburn, then you got to worry about the speed on the outside. Then you got a guy like DeBoer, who's a possession guy, who actually went 80-plus yards in the game at Westwood. So he has the speed, too, to go the distance. That's the problem if you're trying to defend Dutch Fork, because Tate Fant's good enough. He's accurate. He's a smart quarterback. I watch Tom call in plays when he sees certain defensive formations. They get out of calls, and he got the speed on the outside.
Well, when you do that, when you try to put 8 in the box against Dutch Fork or anybody, you're going to wind up man-on-man coverage on the outside. And I don't think that there's anybody out there that can do man coverage against those guys. They're just going to go over the top, and that's what happened last week. Tate Fant goes over the top. They score 4 touchdowns. He gets 4 touchdown passes.
No doubt about it. Our defensive player of the week, Tariq Williams, defensive line. Keenan, 13 tackles, 5 tackle for losses, and 3 sacks. That is a monster game, Jim. I don't care what level you're playing. When you talk about those types of numbers, that tells me when you're active, especially at a defensive line position, that you're getting penetration, you're defeating blocks, you're getting guys down in the backfield, you're not making tackles 5-10 yards down the field. And of course, when it's 3rd and long or a passing situation, you have the ability to get to the quarterback and get sacks. What an awesome performance by Tariq Williams.
Awesome performance, 3 sacks. The sacks take the wind out of your offense whenever you get a sack, and it's just a great job for him. I bet, though, he did not play the trombone at halftime.
Because he's not that talented. There's not many people as talented as I was back in high school, Jim, that can play football, defeat the enemy on the field, and then just engage with the fans during halftime. That will be yours truly right here. Speaking of engaging the fans, what about Eric Kimmerer? This guy, Hammond, has been so good. 9 straight state championship game appearances. They defeat Ben Lippen, guys, who, by the way, has done a great job. I thought that team got better. Wow, what a hit right there, Jim. That's called laying the wood.
That kid held on to the football,
and
too.
That's a great catch.
Great catch. Good defense. Listen, this Hammond team is on fire right now. Now, they have actually played Lawrence Manning already once this year, so it's going to be an interesting game. But Hammond's on their way to another championship, I believe.
Oh, yeah, Eric Kimmerer has done a great job with Lawrence Manning. It's a good team, but they can't handle these guys. Hammond is well coached, one of the best coaching staffs, I think, Depending on what level you look at, I think they got an excellent coaching staff. They got an excellent strengths program over there. They do things the right way. He teaches these kids how to play the game. Are they crazy athletic? No, but they know how to play football and they play smart. And I think that's the advantage Eric Kimry has over the Skeezer teams. I think he's the best coach. He puts them in the best system. The kids learn the system. They started even when they're in the middle school. And when they get to the varsity, these guys are well-oiled machines, Jim, and they know what they're doing. And that's why they defeat other Skeezer teams.
Well, we've talked about in the past the level of competition getting better in Skeezer.
Right.
The players are getting better. But you're right, the coaches are getting better. People have seen what can happen at a school like Hammond when you've got a good coaching staff. This coaching staff over at Ben Lippen is going to be good. They have Derek White came down from Christ Church to take over that program. He's going to have those guys on track.
Yeah.
You got guys like Robbie Briggs who they're going to face this week at Lawrence Manning, who left Manning to take over that program, another well-coached team. So you're seeing that trend of these high school coaches that are in the public ranks that are good coaches, long-time coaches, moving over to Skeezer, and you're going to see Skeezer football get even better.
Well, Reggie Shaw coached at Ben Lippen, and of course now he's at AC Florida, got the Falcons flying high, so they have some good coaches over there. But I expect Eric Kimry at the end of the day to win another state title. Maybe this guy move up the ranks. I'm sure some jobs out there open. I'm just saying. Eric Kimry could be the next guy for that next big job here in the Midlands. When we come back, our very own Henry Rothenberg, they like to call him the chief meteorologist. Well, the weather's been kind of tricky this week. Kind of cold. Will it be cold on Friday night? The chief will tell you about it when we come back after the break. Welcome back to Overtime. Corey Miller, Jim Baxter with you. Of course, Friday is going to be a wonderful Friday night here in the Midlands. A lot of games happening in the Midlands, a lot of playoff games, some key games. Can you imagine that this late in November? Well, it's been a little bit chilly. This weather, Henry, it's been a little strange this week. And I know you've been excited, been on the roof here at the building, but what's going to be happening on Friday night as far as the weather?
I hope people are DVRing that because you just said it's going to be chilly, and you've been telling me all week it's not. Like I said, Corey, when you played in a dome, Minnesota. Love you, Corey. Hey, let's talk about what we can expect Friday. It will be warmer, but still feeling fall-like for the playoff games in the Midlands, which will be relatively comfortable compared to where we have been earlier in the week. 40s for the Friday night games. Temperatures will fall during the game, likely lower 40s by the end of the games. And then for the Saturday game over at Charlie Johnson Stadium, weather's looking pretty nice for that. In fact, we'll look at that forecast in a moment. Let's go day by day. Friday first, here's what we can expect tomorrow night. Newberry, Fairfield Central, 49 for that 7:30 kick. I expect a mostly clear sky. Again, temperatures will fall during the game, so make sure you've got a coat because as those temperatures drop to the lower 40s, well, again, it'll get a little bit more chilly out there, and you may want something a little heavier to stay warm with. Now, going to Saturday and to Charlie Johnson Stadium, we have Lawrence Manning taking on Hammond. That should be 54 degrees for that 7:30 kick, but clouds will increase. That's one of the reasons temperatures will be warmer. We're actually looking by Sunday at the chance of maybe a thunderstorm or two in the forecast, but this is why Saturday I expect to see a little bit more comfortable conditions. No rain expected during the games, Corey, but temperatures in the 50s. It'll be pretty nice before we get hit with another deep freeze that will take us into next week, Corey.
Appreciate it there, Chief Meteorologist Henry Rothenberg. Of course, he don't understand cold. He went on top of the building the other night, Jim, and he had like a trench coat, 2 scars, and what we call in the country toboggan. I don't know, they probably got skull hat, and he wanted to call himself tough. You know what I'm saying?
And there was no hat.
Well, I'll tell you who's tough. That's the Keenan Raiders, and of course, when we talk about key games, they take on 96, and they got a chance to make some history. The first ever Final Four, Jim. What about this program?
I love that catch every time I watch that highlight. I like this game. I think Keenan is going to be a little bit too much for 96. 96 will be a better offensive team than they faced last week, but Keenan's going to get this game. DeMarco Ziegler, expect a big game out of him, and and I expect to see Keenan playing for their first ever state championship
This
in
team-
football.
In football, now, they have some state titles in basketball, of course. So they understand that. But in football, this is really an awesome deal for this program. You got to feel good about them, how they just hung in there. We had some key football games that they won, and got to feel good about the program. If you're looking for a game to go watch, this would be a good one to go watch. This Keenan football team make some hits. Well, we call it with their coach, Coach McCullum, to talk to him about this game this Friday night.
We're playing a team that's that they have a football tradition. They have a history of football, and they're coming off a big playoff win against a team like Sherrall. We're just happy to have the opportunity. The keys to victory for I think both sides are going to be limiting the amount of turnovers, winning special teams, and limiting big plays by the opponent.
He's a guy, again, he said he wanted to be like Fairfield Central. I remember that bite we had about a month ago, and of course he's getting it done, Jim, over there at Keenan. And I feel good about this program. 96, as you said, going to be a tough matchup. But boy, what if this team get to the state title game? And you think it's going to be crazy over there at Keenan?
It will be crazy, but it's not the only game in town. We got a lot of Midlands football still being played in the playoffs.
I mean, you got the Saturday night game. You got Hammond and Lawrence Manning, and of course Eric Kimmy. What he's done over there at Hammond is pretty unbelievable. See what Coach McCullum's doing over there at Keenan. You got Fairfield Central. You got Dutch Fork Airport still soaring. The Falcons are playing good football. So really, when you look at Westwood, my 1A team, maybe, so this is
one A in the polls, not 1A in the classification. I can't believe. No, you still got them 1A or 1B.
Well, let's see what you got. Your top five. I mean,
My top five ain't changed.
your top five has not been all that consistent either. Look
It's
at your
been very
top five.
consistent. Dutch Fork still at number 1, where they've been all year. Westwood at number 2. Fairfield Central number 3. We talked about them. AC Flora at number 4. Moved back into the polls a couple of weeks ago. And Keenan sitting at number 5. Had Swansea there last week. Told you going into the week I had Swansea at 5, but they were going to be dropping because I felt like they'd lose.
I don't remember that.
Roll the tape back, Vinny. Let's take a look at it.
Well, let's look at the POP's top 5. That's right. Dutch Fork number 1. Westwood number 2. There's no A and B.
I'm glad you got rid of that A
Dutch
and B.
Fork is
Make a
soundly
commitment.
proven to me that they're the best team in the Midlands right now, at least. Westwood, even though they lost to Dutch Fork, still number 2. Fairfield Central, this team could move up the chart. We'll see what happens this weekend. They at number 3. AC Flora, I kind of moved back. I had them at 3. I put Fairfield Central at 3. I think they have done a great job. So AC Flora, you're hanging in there at number 4. Of course, my new number 5 is Newberry.
You see what you did?
Coach Strickland.
You set yourself up for
Coach
failure.
Strickland.
You got your number 3 and number 5 team playing. Somebody's going to change again
That's
next
all
week.
right, but that's based on what we have right
five
now.
teams-
I mean, it's process
My
of
5
elimination.
teams will win this week.
It is process of elimination. I mean, these teams don't keep losing, so you got to scoop somebody up. So I even thought about putting Coach Stepp and the Wildcats of Lexington in the ball game.
Well, they got a
in
big
my
game
top
coming
5.
up. Big game coming up for them too.
But right now they're on the outside. All right, we got to get out of here. Of course, he'll change again by the time I hit the commercial break. Appreciate you joining us overtime. Jim Baxter, I'm Corey Miller. We'll see you next week. We'll see if our top 5 change. Good night.